Did anyone ever tell you were pretty? The most beautiful thing they ever did see? You're a waifu Edelgard.
I'm a what? Welcome to the School of Waifucraft and Husbandry.
Now there are many rules you must follow. Under no circumstances are you to collect crests. Don't do it.
I will return here someday, my teacher.
I think it's clear. We can expect great things from you, Edelgard.
Nintendo finally revealed more about Fire Emblem Three Houses after staying silent for over half a year. We've got gameplay details, story lore, and new husbandos and waifus for us to drool over. This is everything you can ask for in a direct. I bet everyone else felt the same way. Where's Luigi's Mansion? This direct was too anime. Stop being so anime, Nintendo. Sounds like they loved it. Honestly, I'm surprised they showed as much as they did without spoiling the game. That was probably my biggest worry going into the direct, but they did a good job avoiding spoilers. So now I'm going to spoil the game anyway by examining every last detail. We're taking another deep dive into Three Houses, where we analyze and theorize everything the game has to offer. However, instead of going through the trailer frame by frame, I've done the dirty work beforehand. That way we can get to the good stuff. So get your diving gear ready, we're going deep.
The Officers' Academy is comprised of 3 houses.
The player avatar Beleth becomes a professor at the Officers' Academy and is put in charge over a house of their choosing. Like I stated in my first analysis trailer, the new trailer confirms there are 3 houses, one for each kingdom in Fodlan. The Black Eagles for Adressia, the Blue Lions for Fargus, and the Golden Deer for Leicester. You can't help but compare it to Hogwarts, except the students in each house come from that area of Fodlan. Let's go over each house starting with the Black Eagles. At the head is Edelgard, the future Empress of Adressia. Then in no particular order, we have Bernadetta, Petra, Casper, Dorothea, Linhart, Ferdinand, and Emo Guy. Emo Guy was actually first seen in the E3 trailer, although only his picture. In this video clip, we see Edelgard showing off her magic skills, specifically the crest of her home, and the crest that is literally everywhere in the monastery and academy, the Flower Bud. I still think there is some heavy connection between the Empire and the Church because of this crest, but we'll leave that skepticism for later. We see the most of the Black Eagles throughout the trailer, and we'll cover their mission and training segments later on, but I want to point out that this seems to be the entire group right here. You might get a transfer student later on, but for now, these 8 are your party members. Next are the Blue Lions, led by Prince Dimitri. We have Annette, Ash, Mercedes, Sylvan, blonde-haired girl with spear, big man tiny axe, and blue-haired swordsman. Again, that's 8 characters in this house. Mercedes was first seen in the E3 trailer, but with a placeholder model. Last is the Golden Deer, where Claude is the house head. The other students are Raphael, Leonie, Hilda, Glasses Boy or Girl, Long-Nosed Purple Guy, Braid Bun Girl, and White-Haired Girl. We probably know the least about the Golden Deer, but we do see Raphael and Leonie talking with Beleth, so that's something. Throughout the trailer, we see the students interacting and studying with each other, furthering their relationships on the battlefield. In the classroom or study hall, we have Annette, Mercedes, blonde-haired girl with spear, Sylvain, Ash, big man tiny axe, Raphael, Leonie, and Hilda. There are also 2 additional students, but I can't recognize them. Actually, I think they're filler characters. Whether or not you can talk to them remains to be seen. The last place we see at the Officers' Academy, besides the classroom, is the dining hall. Wish my school had food that delicious.
Curse you, upper class.
Here we see Ash and blonde-haired girl sitting next to each other. I think places like the dining hall and study hall will serve as places where characters will rise in affinity. But I have no idea if the player can control that or not. That would be kinda weird having your teacher shipping students. Okay, homework for tonight. Ash and Mercedes, I want you to have a nice coffee date. Nothing crazy. Casper and Bernadetta, you need to read a book together, preferably a rom-com. Extra credit if you hold hands. Finally, Raphael and Leonie, once you feel the moment's right, I expect you to make out after training. No exceptions. Everyone else, Get a total of 5 numbers and turn them into me next week. I'll be checking them if they're real. Talking to you, Edelgard. Alright, class dismissed.
In the Fire Emblem Three Houses game, you are the hero the world needs.
Despite the trailer's focus on setting and gameplay mechanics, we also learned a bit more about the story and the player avatar Beleth. For starters, we get our first look at female Beleth, and the first thing you'll notice is her, rather large eyes. So anime. This right here is the avatar selection menu, similar to the menu in Awakening as opposed to Fates. However, there is a small yet important difference between the two. In Awakening, it asks you to pick your gender. In Three Houses, it asks you to pick your form. Is that the new politically correct term? You kids and your hip lingo. To me, this implies there are only 2 choices for your avatar. You don't get to pick a new hairstyle or scars all over your face. What you see is what you get. The only thing besides gender you might be able to change is your name, but even then, most of the characters are going to call you teacher or professor. The Japanese website states you choose between 2 forms. Kinda hard to work around that. As to why this change is happening, Beleth is present in a lot of animated cutscenes, and not just an arm or a leg, but his entire face. This is the first time in the Fire Emblem series the avatar character is fully shown in a cutscene. Sure, you'll get a first-person perspective or the avatar's face is obscured, but they never show the whole face. Unless the animation team created cutscenes for every possible Beleth design variation, there will be no character customization. Personally, I think it's a good change. Awakening and Fates had fantastic cutscenes until the avatar showed up. It became painfully obvious they were trying to hide the avatar's face, making the avatar feel more like a doll rather than an actual character. In a sense, it felt lazy, but I don't blame them for doing what they did. Making cutscenes for every possible design would be a boring, tedious nightmare. With Three Houses, you only have 2 forms to worry about. Wow, I talked about that a lot longer than I thought I would. Huh. Beleth is traveling with his father, Gerald, and his band of mercenaries. Wait, Gerald? Oh great, another Witcher 3 crossover. This is the first time we see Gerald, so there's nothing too grand about him, except his armor looks similar to the Scottish Vikings from the E3 trailer. Maybe Beleth and Gerald come from the Scottish Viking tribe? It's kind of a stretch, but worth pointing out. However, I don't think this is Gerald's group of men the trailer mentions, or even the very beginning of the game. These are clearly Church of Seiros men escorting them to the church. The guy to Gerald's right is probably a knight. The trailer also states you start the game traveling with your father, and then an incident occurs awakening an unknown power within Beleth. This leisurely stroll to the church headquarters doesn't seem like much of a plot twist, and surely they weren't traveling with the Three Stooges from the very beginning. Later on, however, we see an in-game graphics cutscene, which I think is closer to the beginning of the game and explains why the 3 amigos are traveling with Beleth. After Beleth is axed in the back, protecting Edelgard from the bandit Costas, time stops and Beleth is sent to the Dragon Lolly room. Yes, this room. The pose from his fatal wound to being transported to the Dragon Lolly room is nearly identical. Therefore, we can assume this happens one right after the other. More on that in a sec. Another reason why I think this is the beginning of the game is Edelgard uses a dagger instead of an axe to defend herself. To me, this implies they are not yet versed in the ways of combat. Perhaps they were on a training mission or a mock battle with one of the Knights of Seiros, and Beleth and Gerald happened to save them at the last minute. Or maybe she just dropped her axe, I don't know. Moving on, Beleth teleports to the Black Room. Side note, the Japanese says inside his head, or in his mind. Keep that in mind. His sudden arrival awakens the sleeping Dragon Lolly, who we can finally confirm is not Tiki. Hooray! Her name is Sothis, and she looks quite surprised to see Beleth there. In another cutscene, she excitedly offers Beleth her guidance. While some might argue these are the same scene, I think they are different. The first animated scene is the first time you meet Sothis. No idea what triggers the first meeting, but it seems Sothis is just as shocked that you're there. The second time you see her, however, happens after Beleth is axed. This time, Sothis looks like she's wide awake. Bored, but still awake. I believe you accept her offer to help you, she allows you to rewind time, and you block the bandit's attack. Wait, rewinding time? Intelligence systems heard my cries! They're bringing back Milla's turn wheel!
Maybe.
There's no confirmation that you'll be able to turn back time during battle, and this rewind time could be the only time it occurs. That said,
Milla's turn wheel is still a possibility.
the ability to hear and see Sothis is probably what brings you to the Academy in the first place, although it could also be because you saved the Trinity.
It is the home base of the Church of Seiros, the main religion of Fodlan, as well as the Knights of Seiros.
Going back to Sothis, her name stems from the Egyptian name for the star, Sirius.
Wikipedia working overtime today, whoop!
Interestingly, Sirius is the Latinization of the Greek word Seiros. What? There's no way this is a coincidence. Sothis and Seiros have to be connected. So, who is Seiros? It might be the Lady in White. Wouldn't that make her thousands of years old? Yeah, but that's no problem for a Monarchite. In my previous video, I toyed with the idea of her being a dragon, but I wasn't completely sure. However, her green hair and headpiece are so similar to Sothis, she's either a Monarchite or the Church of Seiros shares the same clothing with the Monarchite.
Okay, the Lady in White is Seiros. Case closed.
Well, not necessarily, or at least there are signs that could disprove it. First, take a look at Sothis's outfit. When she's walking down the stairs, you can get a partial look of a symbol on her robe. This is the same symbol that was on the Old Man Viking King's armor and robe in the E3 trailer. So far, they are the only two people who have this symbol. When I made my first analysis trailer, I had no idea what the symbol meant. The only thing I could confirm is that it wasn't one of the 21 crests. However, some people in the comments have pointed out that the symbol mirrors the Church of Seiros painting. And honestly, I think you're completely right. That means Sothis and Old Man Viking King are, at the very least, followers of the event depicted in this painting. This also implies the battle scene depicted in the E3 trailer is not the same as the painting.
I mean, it could imply some weird time-traveling garbage that I thought we left in Awakening.
But for now, I'm going to say no. The Viking battle happens way after the painting. Another thing to note, the symbol can also be found all over the Seasons of Warfare package, emphasizing the emblem's importance to the game. Could this be the symbol to represent this game's Fire Emblem? The E3 trailer does imply the goddess gave a gift to Seiros in this painting. Granted, the gift could be the 21 Crests, but maybe the 21 Crests form the Fire Emblem? I can't say for sure. Just keep in mind the symbol represents something important.
A brilliant deduction.
But what does the symbol mean for the Lady in White? If she is Seiros, the Viking King doesn't have much of a reason to attack her. Seiros is presumably part of the emblem he's wearing, so it's odd he would try to attack Seiros like that. I guess Seiros could have gone rogue or turned crazy over time due to old age, like Milla and Duma in Shadows of Valentia. However, in the E3 trailer, the voice of the Lady in White speaks about Seiros in the third person. Unless she is hiding the fact she is Seiros, they are probably two separate beings. To be fair, the voice might not be the Lady in White, but for right now, it's our best fit, for reasons I explained in my first analysis video. Now we're back to who is Seiros. Well, I don't know. This is where my theorizing goes to maximum overdrive. What if Sothis and Seiros are the same person? Wait, no, don't leave! Hear me out. Sothis and Seiros are two names of the same star. Perhaps Seiros changes her name, loses her memory, or is reincarnated. Sothis also speaks in classical Japanese, which could imply she's older in age. I mean, she is, but like really old in age. Not a child like Tiki. Another possibility, Sothis could be Seiros' offspring, but I have nothing to prove that. Either way, with her name and that emblem on her garment, she has to be closely related to Seiros and the church in some way.
For now, Seiros remains a mystery, but I think we have some pretty good leads.
The continent of Fodlan, said to be protected by a revered goddess, has existed since time immemorial.
During the battle section of the trailer, Edelgard sends her troops to attack an enemy known as the Black Beast. Its design and name are nothing spectacular, although it does take up 4 spaces, holy crap. The item it's holding could be crucial to the story. The Crest Stone of Gautir, one of the 21 Crests. Unfortunately, what the stone looks like or what sort of power it gives the Black Beast remains a mystery. However, later on in the trailer, we actually see a crest on a stone. Ew. I don't think this is the Black Beast stone, but it might be similar. So what if this glowing eye is actually a Crest Stone, and that's where the beast gets its power? Otherwise, I have no idea where the stone beast is hiding the crest. However, I have an idea as to where this might be. We can see the Gautier city in the most northern part of Fargus on the map. Also, this isn't the first time we've seen the name Gautier. Sylvain from the Blue Lion's last name is Gautier. Unless they just happen to have the same name, this crest stone must be associated with his family. What if every student has a crest stone associated with it? It's possible, but if the 21 crest theory is true, there are too many students at 24, 8 in each house. If this theory is to work, there must be 24 crests, or there are 4 students from the same family, or 4 sets of siblings. I'm not sold on this theory, but Sylvain's family is most definitely connected to this black beast in some way. Returning to the oozing stone, you can see one of the 21 crests on it. This confirms that these 21 symbols are indeed important, and most likely the crests given to the world by the goddess. But why is it so evil looking? I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't some corruption going on here. Maybe the goddess and the Church of Seiros are evil after all, or at least that's what the game wants you to think. However, this isn't the first time we see a stone like this. During the E3 trailer, when the woman in white holds the sword whip, we get a short glimpse of the stone or gem on the sword's hilt. It looks similar to the oozing crest stone, but unfortunately, I can't make out what the crest is. It's been either scorched in the game or blurred out by the developers. But these little circles are almost identical to the oozing stone. While I don't think they are the same stones, mainly due to the oozing stone surroundings, I think other crests will look similar to this, and maybe as a part of other weapons. Interestingly, Beleth will gain the sword whip later on in the game, or at least before you face this black beast. We get a good glimpse of it here. 2 things to note about it. 1, it glows just like in the E3 trailer. And 2, it looks like the crest could still be in the hilt. Maybe you could use the crest for good, or you collect crests and add it to your sword. I'm just spitballing now. We see Beleth holding the sword whip again in the final scene, but this time the sword is not glowing, and the stone is missing from the hilt. Beleth is also wearing his normal outfit, but that could just be his cutscene outfit. Maybe Beleth destroyed the crest in his sword, and the purple evilness is the ooze? That's not as crazy as it sounds. A few seconds before this, a hand crushes an object with a purple aura. When I first saw it, I thought the hand used purple magic to destroy it, but now I think the purple aura is coming from the crushed object. So maybe this hand is crushing a crest. Something to keep in mind. This, however, is not the last time we see crests, no sir. But first, it's time for a dumb moment. While I was studying the Leicester symbol, I found another crest on the bottom left, and then another one on the top right. How did I not notice those? That should mean the bottom right has a crest as well, but I can't find one that matches up with this none thing. My best bet are these 2. It makes sense the Lesser emblem has multiple crests on it because it's an alliance rather than the kingdom. If people had already found out about these crests, I must have missed it. Sorry guys. But it doesn't end there. Take a look at the magic being casted by a Western Church mage. Boom! The same symbol from the top right corner of Leicester. This area here with the Western Church is most likely important to the story, or at least one of the missions, but there's not much to say about their motives. These enemy models can be seen chilling in the Academy cafeteria, so I imagine the Western Church is a rebelling faction of the Church of Seiros, and you're commanded to go stop it. After all, the narrator says your missions would include ending rebellions. We can actually see the Western Church on the map in Fargus, here. Now I was ready to end it there and call it good, but with the mage using a symbol like that, could this be in Leicester? But wait, the plot thickens! Linhardt's healing magic also has the same symbol. Since Linhardt is part of the Black Eagles, we know he's from Adrestia, so we have 3 instances of this crest in 3 different countries. Why? One possibility could be this crest gives magical powers for people of Fodlan. However, we see Edelgard in the trailer use some type of magic herself, except this has the flower bud in the middle. Maybe all the crests can be used with magic, but that doesn't seem very consistent. The only other way I could see it working is if this crest is not part of the Leicester Alliance and is just a common crest or symbol in Fodlan. But then again, why put it on the country's symbol? Something is not adding up here, but we won't know more until the game comes out. That brings back the Black Beast. Maybe the crest of Gautier is controlling the beast from afar. Again, these are just theories, people. Don't take them as gospel. Anyway, we get another potential glimpse at a crest wielder right before the oozing crest. This woman, who is either a Knight of Seiros or an Adrestian, wields a blade with the same energy as the sword whip, albeit a slightly different color. To be fair, the woman's sword kinda looks like Eleven's sword, so it's not far-fetched to have magic coming out of it, but maybe it's powered by one of the crests.
Your students will work diligently each day so that they may wield a variety of weapons.
The biggest reveal gameplay-wise would have to be the teaching aspect. In the classroom, you have a few options to explore before you start class, which is a fancy way to say save your progress. You can either tutor, auto-tutor, group task, or set goals, with tutor and auto-tutor costing 1 to 3 lesson plan points respectively. But let's start with set goals, since that affects how the other modes go down. Like I said before, the trailer has Beleth following the Black Eagle's route, so we are training with that house. Every student starts off as a vanilla unit, and you can mold them however much you like. It's sort of like the 5 villagers in Shadows of Valentia, only this time every unit is a villager. I imagine some students do better in certain skills than others, but in the end, that's for the player to decide. There are 11 skills that we know of: sword, lance, axe, bow, fighting, reason, faith, authority, heavy armor, riding, and flying. Some of these are self-explanatory, but let's quickly touch on the newish ones. Fighting is weapons that are used with punching, like Casper and his gauntlets. Reason is black magic, like fire, and some other type of magic that I'm not certain about. This could be magic that causes ailments to the enemy? I don't know. Faith is white magic, like healing. No clue if that includes magic that can do damage, but we do see Linhardt healing Beleth with white magic later on. Authority is an interesting one. In previous games, authority was sort of a passive skill that was given to commanders of armies, like Ike in Radiant Dawn. The higher the authority of a character, the higher the hit rate and avoid of all units under the commander. There's no evidence authority will work this way in 3 houses, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Students can only have 2 focuses at a time, but you can choose a new skill set whenever. Looking at Linhardt, he comes ready to study reason and faith, but there's also an option for custom. Now it's possible the player already set him to reason and faith, but for now I'll say that's his default. On the right, you'll see grades for each skill, similar to the weapon ranking system in previous games. Also, it's worth mentioning the lack of a wyvern skill. However, that skill could be part of the flying skill or be one you attain later on. Or maybe it's gone forever. I don't know. I mean, I highly doubt it's gone forever, right? That's like one of the coolest classes. You can't do that. Next, the tutored section. This is where you can raise certain weapon levels and other skills outside of battle. On the left, we have the weapons, grade, and certain buffs to the skill. The blue arrow means strength, and this is affected by your focus. And we can assume the red arrow means weakness. The one finger icon I'm a little unsure about, but the chart on the right might help. This shows how much experience you'll gain if you study that skill. Normally you'll just gain a +2. However, if you study in a skill that is your strength, you get an additional +4. The Japanese trailer also includes footage of the one finger that says teaching staff recommendation or something to that effect. This gives you a +2 counter. As for weakness, I don't know if it's a plus or minus. It's also unclear if the weaknesses are based on the student, their focuses, or both. Another item on this chart are the stars. Unfortunately, I'm at a loss at what it could mean. Since this student is not particularly good at faith, I can't imagine the 3 stars are a good thing. The player is teaching Dorothea, and her focuses are swords and reason. The player then selects swords and confirms. Instead of just going up 6 points, she gets a 1.5 multiplier for unknown reasons. It could have something to do with their student-teacher relationship, because the affinity meter does increase, but there's no way to tell at this point. By the way, the affinity goes up 2 arrows in the Japanese trailer. Guess we know who the teacher's pet is. The screen also shows you can train multiple times, but there is a limit, and training once costs you a training plan point. Okay, honestly, I don't know what these are called, but I'm calling them training plan points from now on. When you complete a training session, the meter at the top right also goes down, but this one is harder to decipher. In the English trailer, the face is happy and green, but in the Japanese trailer, the face is red and almost in pain. I imagine it has something to do with how tired the student is, but when does it reset? At the end of the day? Maybe it's there to prevent you from making a student too OP. Lastly, there's the auto tutor and the group task. Auto tutor costs 3 training plan points, so there must be some benefit behind it besides just doing the training for your students. Group task, I imagine, is like planning alliances and supports for the battle ahead, because we can see support skills can activate with at least up to 4 units.
Students are expected to travel to various lands, sometimes with the knights.
Alright, now it's time for the mission. Since you can decide who wields what, there's not much point in pointing out what everyone's current skill is. However, I do think the skill icon above the character represents the current weapon they have equipped. Beside every unit are 3 green triangles or arrows, except for Dorothea. Sorry Dorothea, you don't get the Triforce. What an original joke! But what do the arrows mean? I think it's the troops or battalion that accompany your unit. Perhaps the color represents the health of the troops, if they have health, and the arrows represent different formation? That's my best guess, guys. Next, let's take a look at Berdetta's command options. Attack, arts, gambit, items, trade, and wait. Last 3 are self-explanatory, but the first 3 have changed from the E3 trailer. In that trailer, Edelgard's options were attack, magic, combat arts, formation, and then the last 3.
A quick note, some people have been misreading combat art as combo art. Well, I don't know what kind of simpleton would do that, but whoever they are, they clearly have the reading skills of a potato.
Combo arts? Are these like combat arts?
Obviously, Berdetta and Edelgard's attack options are different. Either Edelgard comes with her own options, or they have changed since the E3 trailer. Let's believe the latter, since a lot can change in 6 months. It looks like magic is now under attack, combat arts have been changed to arts, and formation is now gambit. Out of the 3 options, gambit is the most intriguing. While it's not confirmed this is the new word for formation, gambit is associated with battalion later on in the trailer when the 4-way support skill activates. The support skill is called Gambit Boost, and Edelgard proceeds to attack with her battalion right after it. As for what gambit means, the word itself implies stratagem, but maybe it's a reference to the chess move Gambit, where you sacrifice your pawn to gain a strategic advantage. The battalion is with you while you fight, but once you use a Gambit attack, the troops leave you. That could explain why some units don't have the 3 arrows. In fact, at one point, Linhardt loses his 3 arrows. While I think these are 2 separate missions, the fact remains he had the arrows at one point. Maybe he attacked someone with his battalion, and then he lost them. Then again, that doesn't explain why Dorothea doesn't have her Triforce at the beginning of the mission, putting into question the real meaning of the arrows. Another way the Gambit option could work is like in Final Fantasy XII. The Gambit system there allowed you to dictate what your party AI would do during battle. Now, I don't think you can control the AI of the students necessarily, rather you can control the actions of your battalion. Of course, we still don't know what those actions are beyond, go attack that guy, yeah. For now, I'm going to say the Gambit option will allow you to interact with your troops in some fashion, and maybe change what shape they attack in, as we saw Dimitri do in the E3 trailer. Moving on to arts. I said combat arts have been changed to arts, but it's possible art features different kinds of arts, not related to combat, like support arts, or, meanie arts. Or maybe they just changed the name. Give it up for the modern Sherlock. Anyway, when Berdetta is attacking, we can see an art being used, Curved Shot, which was first introduced in Shadows of Valentia. However, instead of being tied to a weapon, you can toggle through your arts like you can weapons. Yay for convenience! This art also has limited uses, as evidenced by the number 3. Now, this is the only art we see in this scene, but later on we see Edelgard use an art called Coordinated Gambit. More evidence supporting the Gambit theory. This probably has some sort of effect on her attack on the Black Beast, maybe raising the troops' attack or accuracy, or preventing them from leaving Edelgard after attacking. Next is the actual attacking phase. The attack menu has changed from the E3 trailer, albeit more stylistically. The text is smaller and the space is tighter. Even the sprite next to the character name has shrunk. We can also now see the 3 green arrows next to her level, which means it must affect combat in some way. Another interesting note, Bredetta is a noble class, while the E3 trailer says Edelgard is an aristocrat. However, in the Japanese trailer, both are kizoku, meaning aristocrat or noble. In truth, the term is interchangeable, but maybe they changed Edelgard's class to noble and then made the starting class for all the students noble as well. The biggest change from E3, however, is the battle data, receiving a new display for the data. Much more pleasing to the eye. Most of the categories stayed the same, except endurance is now defense, as it should be. Lastly, we see the bow Bredetta is using is effective against flying units. A series norm, sure, but this confirms certain weapons will fare better against certain unit types. Also, Bredetta is holding a vulnerary in the Japanese trailer.
Oh my goodness, that was extremely important you told me that! I don't know what I'd do if I didn't know that!
She selects her iron bow, showing her range of attack, as well as opening the next screen. The UI has hardly changed here, so instead let's focus on the top 3 images. First, the fire skill. It's kind of similar to Beleth in the E3 trailer, except this one has a person in the flames. As for what skill it could be, it looks the most like Tempest from the Path of Radiance game, although Tempest dealt with your biorhythm, and so far we don't see anything like that. Other options could be Zeal or Clarity. Next we have the spear and bow beside it, each at level 1. This shows the 2 weapons she can use are the spear and bow. But why the level and not the grade system? Are they interchangeable? That said, I don't think this represents what they are currently studying. Later on in the trailer, we see Ferdinand have 3 weapons at level 1 instead of just 2, meaning that units can be proficient at more than just 2 weapons at a time. After Bredetta carries out her attack, the trailer cuts to Petra's critical hit attack, where she jumps and slashes her enemy straight down the middle.
Brutal, but not very flashy. I give it a 7 out of 10.
Once Petra finishes the guy off, we get our first look at the experience growth UI. Here we see Petra as studying swords and authority.
I was kinda hoping she was studying how to kill people with flagpoles, but whatever.
We also see how far she has until her class is mastered, and the experience growth of the battalion.
Whew, are we done yet?
Almost.
You can help your students reach their full potential.
Maybe this doesn't deserve a section, but I wanted to talk about it, so here we are. Changing classes in 3 houses is like passing a midterm, except there's no way to fail if you meet all the criteria. There are 8 classes to choose from, and Edelgard goes for the Brigade class, a nicer word for bandit or axe user. Based on Edelgard's class change options, anybody can take a certain path as long as they meet the requirements and have an intermediate seal. However, since this is only an intermediate seal, there must be one more class change after this. In fact, we see what might be Beleth and Edelgard's second class change in this scene. Edelgard's outfit is completely different from what we've seen before, and the same goes for Beleth. Therefore, each student must have at least 2 class changes. Since there's a number of combinations of skills for students to learn, what if each pairing leads to a unique 3rd class? This is just speculation, but each class requires you to master a certain weapon in order to rank up. So what if you learn reason and swords, you become a tactician? Or if you focus on flying and axes, you become a wyvern rider? Not saying these are true or not, just giving some possible examples.
Fodlan, and these 3 mighty powers now exist in relative harmony.
We're not done yet.
Sometimes it's the finer details that are the most important. In this case, they are at least worth a mention. We get a couple shots of the official Church of Seiros Officer Academy flag. In it we have a griffin, a star, and the flower bud. I could see the griffin and flower bud representing Fargus and Adrestia respectively, but what about Lester? There's no moon. Maybe the Alliance couldn't decide on one crest? I mean, they have 3 or 4 on the emblem alone. The star in the middle is also interesting. Remember how Sothis and Seiros' name come from the star Sirius? What if the star represents Seiros? Or maybe even the goddess? Food for thought. Also, the darn Harassfelger emblem won't go away. Hey, Church of Seiros, if you love the flower bud so much, why don't you marry it?
Oh, dang, Beleth! Call 911! Call 911!
It's always the quiet ones! Honestly, this obsession with the flower bud crest ticks me off. Because it means something, and I want to know what. I've been saying this since the beginning. But maybe the Empire had a hand in the Church's foundation, and the current Emperor, who we see right here, is handing the Church money and resources under the table.
Hey, I'll give you a couple million gold if you wear this robe covered in flower buds.
Deal. Seriously, this robe is covered in flower bud crests. Why is this the most used and arguably the most sacred image for the Church of Seiros, and not this symbol? If you want to see more examples of the Church, the Empire, and the flower bud, check out my first analysis. The three animals of the three houses are somewhat symbolic in medieval Europe. The eagle represents courage, strength, immortality, and the messenger of the gods. Since Adrestia and the Church are so close, messenger of the gods makes sense. The lion represents royalty, nobility, courage, and strength. Since Fargus is ruled by a monarch, nobility makes sense. The deer represents regeneration and spirituality. This one is a little tricky. Perhaps the branch-like antlers represent the many alliances in Leicester. Or everyone is very spiritual. What does this all mean? Probably nothing.
Oh my gosh, stop wasting my time!
We get a look at two teachers from the academy. Is it possible these guys are also Knights of Seiros? They gotta be somewhat important if they took the time to animate them, right? The monocle professor seems to have a thing for diamond shapes, and the I'm in my late 30s and still not married teacher thinks orange is her color. She thinks orange is her color. It's not. As for the students they are teaching, I'm pretty sure these are just filler students, hence why you never see their faces. You can hold training matches at the school, but this honestly seems like the most boring feature. The Japanese trailer shows the two going back and forth until someone hits 0. It's like watching the most boring tennis match ever. Oh, nice, very good. You do get gold and intermediate seals for doing it, and luckily you don't waste your weapons on it, as they give you a training weapon. The tile Kostis is standing on is the same tile that the Black Beast is standing next to. It's hard to see in the English trailer, but it's clearer in the Japanese trailer.
Oh, Kostis and the Black Beast are related?
No, it's probably just a healing tile or the end of the mission. Nothing special.
Then why bring it up? Because I can. I'm so tired.
You want to see another minorly stupid thing? Beleth's stomach area is slightly blurred here when he is transported to Sothis' place. Are the developers hiding a spoiler? Or is this just some weird lighting?
You tell me.
There are only a few differences between the Japanese and English trailers that I haven't already pointed out, but one in particular that is kinda neat is the improved textures in the Japanese version. When you toggle between the two, you can see the differences in lighting and texturing. Another difference, everyone is wearing red in the Japanese version of this scene. Maybe you can change the color of the armor. Neat. Last but not least, everything is fully voice acted. Thank you, Echoes, for setting a new standard for Fire Emblem. The voice actors so far sound pretty good too. But can I have the Japanese dub, please?
3 houses. Your very own journey.
I know this is going long, but this is the last section.
Finally, good night!
The narrator throughout the trailer emphasizes that 3 houses would be your very own adventure, and that the choice is yours. I think there are a few ways to take that. One way is based on your units. How you train and mold your students is entirely up to you. In the end, a lot of players will have different outcomes based on the house they choose, and the classes they choose for their units. In that sense, the choice is yours. Another way I thought of was multiple endings. Maybe your choices affect the flow of the story, and you can find yourself getting many different endings, and they may not all necessarily be good. It could make for some serious replayability, but a part of me doubts they would have you go through an arguably long game over and over and over again. My last idea kind of goes along with it. What if each house has a different story or plot that plays out? And in order to get the true ending, you need to play through all 3. Again, this would lead to hours and hours of playtime, but that hasn't stopped us before, right? Curse you, fates! It's not a solid theory, more like a what if. Something to keep in mind.
Fire Emblem 3 houses.
Even after 40 minutes of analyzing this trailer, I still feel like there's so much more to see. We hardly know anything about the Fargus and Leicester countries, or the story that unfolds there. At the same time, I know enough to say I'm optimistic for the outcome of 3 houses. Becoming a teacher and getting to mold your units the way you want could be a brilliant idea in the end. Of course, only time will tell. I mean, some of us thought Fates was a good game when it first came out. I'm kidding. Fates is good. I like the games. Please don't hurt me. I did it for the joke. Unfortunately, we have to wait longer than we first anticipated. that's a-okay. I'm positive the wait will be worth it. By the way, I called the delay in my Valkyria Chronicles 4 video. In the meantime, I'm gonna watch some Harry Potter. The fanbase chooses the waifu, Miss Harasvager. I remember every weapon I've sold, and the sister of that weapon changed the fanbase forever. She was a great waifu. Terrible. Yes, but great. I think it's clear. We can expect great things from you, Edelgard. Forget this, I'm getting homeschooled. Thank you so much for watching. What a trailer. I'm exhausted. Look, I would give you the normal junk of please subscribe or let me know what you think. But at this point, I just want to sleep. So feel free to do whatever you want in the comments. I'm going to bed. Oh, and shout out to patrons Chase, Random VP, Mayako, and Joseph. Thank you for all you do. Goodbye, you good people.